Hello once again then folks, and welcome to the next stage of the DeAgostini GT40 build. Last time of course I mentioned doing potentially more in that instalment, but it ended up that the door took a decent amount of time, so I ended up leaving that as is. In this one we're starting off with number 4, and I've taken a brief look ahead of time at this particular instalment, which is this section, which is the hood cover to attach to the front clamshell in particular. This, of course, is going to be added on to a previous part which we'd already had in section 1, which is the front clamshell, which, for those who followed the series so far, will know we didn't actually do anything with that. So, I will, as always, of course, skip forward through the actual unboxing part of this, so that we can then get into the building. So with the card removed, we can now take the plastic out of this one. As I said, it looks like a relatively minimal kit. Plastic as usual, and then we have the actual bonnet piece with the air vent there, as you can see, also metal of course. We have this cross member, looks like a support strut, we'll get to that in a second, and then we have these much smaller pieces here, the bonnet pins, if you can see those. So I'm going to leave those in the plastic for now, and then we can come back to those in a second. So, step 1 first of all, we have recover the hood that was supplied with installment number 1. So that is from over here. We have this one, which of course is the primary clamshell piece. Okay, so that is indeed recovered. Then step 2, place the hood cover into the opening of the hood. So if we take that one and then place that, doesn't quite sit down on the table on its own, but place that one in there. I'll hold that for now then. And then step 3, make sure that the hood cover fits correctly into the hood as shown. Yep, looks correct to me. And then let's jump over to the next page. Place the 4 hood closures into the 4 slots of the hood. Probably can't see that because of the glare, but place the 4 hood closures into the 4 slots in the hood. Turn them to lock the cover in position. Okay. So, if we take a look at those, that looks to me like we're working with these pin sections facing upward. So if I place that in there, put that one through. I don't know if that, it doesn't keep the inner, so we're keeping this central column for later, so that doesn't even apply to this stage. But place it into the hood, turn them, so they do. Oops, they do need to be turned to keep those in place. So if I pop that in, I need to keep that in position, flip it over. Aha, right, so there we go. That one's now in place. Can't really put this down properly, so I'll have to suspend it in the air for now. Pop that one through. Feels like it's all the way through. Yep, that feels about right. These are very delicate by the feel of it, so it's probably one of the stages of the build where you'd want to be pretty careful about not snapping them. And of course, now that I've said that, I probably will snap one. I think that one probably would do better off being placed in. Oops, place that one in that. In that way around. And where are we on? So yeah, that one is turned more in that kind of direction. And then if we grab the final one, and it looks like the bonnet is a little bit raised there. Pop that one through. And then give it a ginger turn. So then that is that. So I should hopefully be able to turn this upside down. There you go, without the bonnet falling out. Already looking more familiar to a GT40's front end. Okie dokie, so that is that section done, and as I said, this piece is being kept for later on. So that, of course, is where we are looking on the front end of the car with this particular piece. This is going to be set aside for the next step of the video, and now we're going to move on to step 5. Now then, for step 5, this one looks like a much more complex step, because if we turn to the back, we have all of these steps for actually putting together, if not the entire engine, certainly a significant portion of the engine, just from giving it a brief look over. And we have quite a few parts, so I'm not sure if there's any more engine coming later on in the build, but this looks like maybe the top half of the engine, not so much bottom half. And there is the actual set itself, so pretty decent amount of fiddly stuff in there. Now, of course, we will set about opening it up and getting the parts out. And with the card removed, we can now very carefully remove the plastic so as to hopefully not lose any of the individual parts. There we go. Nothing in there, I don't think. We have some fuel lines, we've got some carburettors, we've got some flutes. Okay, so there's our selection of components. So now we'll put that to one side for just a second and get started. So here's all the pieces, carburettor, intake manifold, etc. So now let's get to the actual steps. So step 1, insert the pivot of one throttle arm, part 2, which is our 5, where are we? 5G. So whereabouts in here is our 5G? Let's take some of these out and then we can know where we are. So this is the screw section, more of the heavy metal. That one actually is metal, which is a nice touch. Some of these other pieces aren't. And fuel lines out. And then remove the individual flutes. And then the throttle, and here we go. So I believe that's it. So now we have, let's read through this again. Insert the pivot of one throttle arm, which, if I recall, is one of these, into the hole at the end of the throttle arm assembly. Okay, so let's bring back this one. So here's our throttle arm assembly. And gently press the parts together. So unless I need to change it in a second, to my eye that looks close enough. And if we need to change it in a second, we can. So put that off to one side. Now, step 2, position the... Oh, yeah, we do need it. Position the throttle assembly in the 2 holes in the carburettor base. So bring over our carburettor base. And which is the orientation here? So it looks like it's that way around in the picture. And then we're placing this. I'd say that the orientation looks roughly that way around to me. So that should pop into there. Pop that one in. Pop that one in. Okie dokie. Those look a little bit off-centered to me. It's possible that I may have put those perhaps the wrong way around. So I've actually taken those back out, and I'm going to try and redo this again to make sure that it looks more accurate to the photo. So in the photo here, that is definitely oriented in that direction because we have a slightly thicker end here. So now if I grab one of these again, let's see what kind of orientation it looks like they're going for. So that looks to me like that should be the correct. That should be correct orientation. So pop that one in there, and then pop that one on the same. That does look a little bit bent, so it's possible the plastic. No, that definitely looks the wrong way around in comparison. I was going to say it's possible that the plastic was bent, but I think I just put it on the wrong way. Pop that one on there. That to me that is very frail, but that does look more accurate now, I believe. So now if we bring this back, I think this should clip on more accurately. Pop that one in. Pop that one in. And if we move that over just a little bit. There we go. So that looks, to me at least, a bit more accurate to the photo. This arm does appear to be further over here, closer to the hole, but I think it may just be the angle. So, actually no, that makes sense because that isn't actually in the hole, so yeah, that makes sense. So if we compare that to the photo, yep, we've got that lightning bolt formation. That looks correct to me. So now it appears that the next step is still using this one, so we'll leave that there. Now, carburettors and base have corresponding numbers stamped on them. Let's take a look for that. Where is our number? I can see a tiny number 1 there, if that is a number 1. Is that a number 1? Right, so fit stamped 1. So that one is definitely stamped 1. Okay, so 1. Ah, yes. So number 1 is there. And then we can pop that onto there. So that one slots right in nicely. I wasn't able to see a number on the other one though. So where are the rest? Doesn't look to me like they have corresponding numbers. The carburetors and base have corresponding numbers. Fit one of the carbs into the corresponding base. Let's just check the next piece. Okay, so they've left it there for now. Okay, so we can leave it as well. We want to do it in the same order that they've done it in. So place one of the diaphragms here into the carburettor, hold the parts in place and secure using a screw. So let's pop that one in there. And then we can take our FP01s, quite a few screws in this particular shipment. So we may as well get those all out on the table for now. So if we grab one of those, put them on the screwdriver, flip this bad boy upside down, and give that a nice little tighten. And that looks to me like, if I just undo that a little bit, that does in fact have a place, there you go, to correctly slot right in so that it doesn't just keep rotating. And repeat the process. In step 5, repeat the process to fit the remaining carburettors and diaphragms. So I'm still not entirely sure what they're saying about the numbers being, or the carburettors being numbered, because I'm still not able, unless I'm missing something, I still can't see, unless I'm missing something, I still can't see any kind of number on there. So if we focus on doing another flute first before we move on to the next one, and I will probably edit through a lot of this particular footage so that we can get it done a little bit more quickly for you as the viewer. And with that final tightening, we now have all 4 carburettors and all 8 diaphragms fitted. And it would appear that, unfortunately, probably due to having to take it off and placing it back on again, it looks like I've broken one of these very delicate throttle arms, or at least the very small piece that came down from it, connecting it in here. So I'm going to have to even, after finishing this, depending on how easy it is to get to, figure a way of getting that to stick back in there so that it at least looks the way it's supposed to look. But that's a shame. Very easy to do, I would imagine. I'm certainly not the only person who would have had that happen, which is a shame. So with that done, so step 6 is pass the fuel hose through the support ring inside the carburettor base, and then noticing step 7, insert the pins of the fuel hose into the holes in the carburettors and press them home. So by the look of things, we have small nodules on the underneath which are not on the outside, so the orientation of this being passed through must be this way. It would have been ideal for them to mention that in the instructions, but at least at this stage it doesn't. So if we pass that through right up to the corner part, okay, and now we need the incredibly fiddly job of, just to make sure I'm pressing it into the right place, pressing that into here. So I think we're going to have to use a screwdriver to do this section, because this is very fiddly indeed. And there we go. So, as I said, I'm still going to have to figure a way of getting this little throttle linkage back in. For now, that should, well, it probably would stay in there on its own, but I'm not going to force it for now, so I'll set that to one side, and that is step number 7. Now, let's move the screws over a little, move on to our next step. So step number 8, once the fuel hose is in place, pass the ends through the root hole, through the round hole even, in the side of the carburettor base. So that is our hole here. So are we saying put both through? It certainly looks that way, so if we pop that one through there first. Top comes over here and feeds, it looks to me like over the top of the other. Let's say it is for now. So carefully feed that one through. I could see this being an extremely annoying section for some people. I'll leave it there for now before I push it through anymore. So we've pushed that through the carburettor base. Good to go. Then where are we now? Step 9, turn the assembly over. Let's have it that way so it mirrors theirs. And then secure the intake manifold, here the metal piece, into the bottom base with 2 FP01 screws. Okay, so it looks like that is matching up in that orientation. And FP01s, let's grab a screw. Yep, it's much more secure. There we go. Now to move on to step 10, place the carburettor cover onto the center of the assembly and gently press it home. So where are our securing points? Here Well, that's certainly, I would say that certainly looks like it's in the right place to me. And then stage complete. So the appearance of the assembled carburettor. So how have they got the fuel lines here then? So both of the fuel lines, they've kind of curved that one around. And that one is coming through here. So they're kind of facing in that same general direction. But yeah, they need perhaps a bit more bending. But aside from that, that's close enough, certainly, to what they've gotten, with the only unfortunate part being this small break, which is a shame, and thankfully there's still a bit of access in there, so I should be able to glue that back in place. And there is, appears to be one extra screw, a silver one. I'm not certain what that's about, because it says the part is complete. So, thank you for joining me for this particular stage of the build. We had our first mishap, probably of many, and of course, stick around for more.